Matchbox. It's an ordinary word. There's nothing special about it. It's something that you might find in anybody's home. When most people see or hear the word matchbox, the first thing that they're going to think of is this. I bet that's the first thing that you thought of when you saw that word. And we don't even consider that a social norm. We consider it human nature. We think that the first association that we will always make will be between a word and an object or a definition. That's just not the case. See, my entire life, when I have seen or heard the word matchbox, the first thing that I have thought of is this. There's one day in 6th grade that I remember perfectly. It was about 75 degrees outside, partly cloudy, and the bell rang for me to go into my English class. I ran into the classroom and took my seat in the back left corner as my teacher was writing a sentence on the board from the book The Outsiders. The sentence was, "I liked my books and clouds and sunsets." When my teacher wrote the period at the end of the sentence, I laughed to myself in my seat. My friends all turned to me and they said, "What's so funny?" I pointed at this sentence on the board and I said, "Every word in that sentence is blue." My teacher was writing with a red Expo marker. All of my friends looked at me and like I was insane. I'm pretty sure my teacher thought I was having a stroke when she overheard me say that. And I was completely dumbfounded. This is how I had read words my entire life, and to have that contested was insane to me. When I went home that night, I hopped on Google and started desperately searching blue sentence, colored words, and I eventually came across a term called synesthesia. Synesthesia is a term for the cross-wiring of different perceptive areas of the brain that some people experience. Some people with synesthesia may smell different scents when they see different shapes. They may feel something on their skin when they taste different things. They may associate different words with different colors. This is a piece of art by a synesthete named Melissa McCracken. She has chromesthesia, which is a sound-color correspondence. I challenge you not to think about this as a painting, but rather as a song. I didn't realize it at the time, but synesthesia would ultimately come to me as more of an advantage than a condition, and it would ultimately establish my belief that who I am today will be irrelevant to me tomorrow. Now, moving chronologically, when I made a transition from 6th grade to 7th grade, I moved from a private school with about 150 kids to a public school with over 2,400 kids, and I knew nobody. This made me a very easy target for bullying. It all began as just general jock versus nerd bullying, the kind of stuff that you see in movies. Pop Warner football players 2 feet taller than me, grabbing me by my collar and shoving me against a wall, telling me to give them the answers to the algebra test that we were taking that day. That actually happened to me. But as time went on, it began to take a turn for the worse as I was bullied for my biraciality. Now, when most people meet me, they assume that I'm from some sort of Hispanic region, but in reality, I'm half Indian and I'm half German. When people at my school found out about this, I began to be labeled slurs from both of these sides. This was very difficult for me because all of a sudden, I was being attacked for these unchangeable parts of my identity. I was being attacked for these ingrained parts of who I was. And I felt like there was nothing that I could ever do to stop what was happening. I hit rock bottom in 8th grade when I decided that this is the way that things were always going to be. I mustered up all of my courage to go and talk to my school counselor, but when the step came to contact a therapist, I backed out. I told my counselor, "No, it's okay, everything's fine, I'm fine," because I was too afraid to face the fact that I was suffering from depression. Something would happen the summer after 8th grade that would change everything, though. I was lying in bed one day with my eyes closed and my headphones on, listening to the album Channel Orange by Frank Ocean. As the song Sierra Leone came on, I noticed some colors pierce the back of my eyelids. I quickly sat up in my bed excited because I had just discovered another manifestation of my synesthesia and chromesthesia, this sound-color correspondence. See, I'd been classically trained in piano for 6 years prior to this, but I quit because I considered it a sort of empty creative talent to play music written by somebody else. I felt like I wasn't making anything original. About a year prior to discovering my chromesthesia, I started songwriting, and I really kicked this into high gear after this discovery. All of a sudden, I wasn't making music for my ears. I was making music from my brain. I wasn't making music to listen to, I was making music to experience. I quickly picked up the guitar, the drums, and the bass so I could have all of these added aspects to each of my songs, and within a year, I had written over 300 songs. That year, my parents noticed my passion for music, and they bought me a MIDI controller so I could start producing my own music. This unlocked infinite opportunities for me. All of a sudden, I could edit the attack, the decay, the delay, the tone, the compression, the reverb, the amp, the pitch, the EQ of each individual instrument in each song. And I know that must just sound like gibberish to people who don't make music, but it was my entire world, and it continues to be. Now, when I play through these sounds, most people are interpreting this the way that we have all learned to, objectively through sensation. We all immediately understand, okay, that's a kick drum, that's a snare drum, that's a hi-hat. But for chromesthetes, that's not the way that we see it. I didn't build this drum kit with kick drums and snare drums. I built it with dark reds, with oranges, with bright yellows, because each instrument is a paintbrush. And when they all come together, it allows me to paint a mural. That song's available on all streaming services, by the way, in case you want to check it out. So right now, you might be wondering, where does all of this connect? How did my desire for a different life or no life at all change when I discovered my chromesthesia? Well, see, when I was being bullied, I was being attacked for all of these parts of me that I had no control over. I felt like I was what I was born as, and that was it. But after having complete creative control over something original that I could bring into the world, it established my belief that you are not what you are born as. You are what you build yourself to be. When everyone saw Matchbox up on the screen, they all had their own immediate reaction. And for most people, that was the same thing. They cannot understand what it is like to immediately associate a word with anything besides an object or a definition. My chromesthesia, and ultimately my synesthesia in general, has taught me that no one will ever be able to see the world the way that I do, so when they attack who I am at my core, their argument is invalid. The effect that these slurs and these quite literal punches and kicks had on me disintegrated, because how can you tell someone they are worth less than you when you've never even seen for yourself who they truly are? This is the realization that saved my life. Think about a time when you were really hurting and someone came up to you and they said, "Oh, I understand what you're going through. I feel your pain." I bet the first thing that you wanted to say to them was, "No, you don't." As human beings, we like to think that we have empathy, and we do, just not in its truest form, because we will never be able to see the world through somebody else's eyes. When I felt like my life wasn't worth living, all I needed to do was stop thinking in the third person. When I felt so alone, all I needed to do was realize that everybody else was alone too. In a world where we lose more and more of our privacy every day, the one thing that will always remain private is our perception of the world. There is this concept in philosophy and logic called the law of the excluded middle. It states that any argument is either true or false, and there is no in between. This is an idea that you need to reject. You are both the artist and the canvas. You are both the author and the book. You are both the question and the answer, because you and only you can make yourself, change yourself, and define yourself. Stop thinking in dichotomies. I realize now that the most naive thought that I have ever had is that I cannot become a better version of who I am. Whenever a song from Channel Orange comes on, I'm reminded of the fact that each moment is a chance to redefine yourself, and you are only who you say you are. Thank you.